One drone strike aimed at the Venezuelan cartels has ignited a political firestorm within the GOP. Blaze News The Mandate starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Jill Savage, joined by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
You know, I leave Dallas, I come back, and the weather has changed. It's beautiful. I mean, I feel like Trump over here. The weather out here is beautiful. Some would say the best weather we've had in Dallas since before summer began.
It absolutely is. And this is normally the point in the show where we welcome in Chris Bedford, but he is out sick today. But don't worry, we have our DC reporter, Rebecca Zelko, in his place. How are you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing well. The weather's not as good as over there, I'm sure. We're still enduring the humidity, but it's good to see both of you.
All right, let's get down to business because there's a lot going on right now. There's a drone strike out there that was meant to hit cartel members, and it sparked a war of words inside the GOP. But JD Vance is praising it as a decisive action, while Rand Paul is blasting it as lawless. So is this feud really about one strike, or is it just exposing a much deeper split inside the Republican Party over how America should actually use its military power, Rebecca?
I think it's both. I certainly think that it's highlighting this disagreement that we've seen emerge within the GOP, especially in the last few months when it comes to foreign policy. You'll have one sect of the GOP that tends to be more libertarian, also tends to be a bit more dovish when it comes to these sorts of things. And then you have the other side that is a bit bolder when it comes to foreign policy or military action. They're more willing to take that step, as we saw last week when they struck that boat with those alleged Venezuelan cartel members. I believe it was about a dozen of them. And so this, I think, is just another example of this division. I think the most prominent example up until now really was Israel. This is kind of similar arguments kind of being reapplied in another military intervention, if you will. This is just the latest of many, I'm sure.
So I want to go back just to the origin story of this, because I think it was a fantastic moment in the public prints, which are now called X on Twitter. You had this moment where, if you show that full screen of the post that started all of this, where Vance says killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. I mean, so he leans into the action saying, no, actually, this is how the military should be used. This is actually its highest and best use right now. These people are trying to destroy America from a foreign government, right? And then Rand Paul's response is, I think, astounded a lot of people because he just mocks JD Vance for saying, I don't give a shit what you call it, when Vance comes after him and says this is, a war crime, basically, whatever. And so he's mocking Vance's response to Paul. And Vance, when he says, I don't give a shit on Twitter, I mean, that inspired a bunch of memes. And to me, that's the spirit of 2025. Like, that's the new right, saying, I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you say it's this and that. I don't think that that's what it is. And the real gist of it, the spirit of it is, I do not care about these names, these memes, these tropes anymore. And so Rand's response, right, is to come in and say, talking about Kill a Mockingbird and, did you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, which he was roundly mocked for? Did he ever wonder what happened if the accused were immediately executed without trial representation? Just say a little bit how you conceive of this, Rebecca, because this exchange was telling. I think it was a telling moment for the spirit of this year.
I think the most telling moment of it all is the fact that our lawmakers are spending their Saturday nights tweeting obscenities at each other. I mean, beyond that, it's the infamous "Did you even read To Kill a Mockingbird" tweet, and so that was, again, memed, like you said. But I think the point that Paul is trying to make, that Senator Paul is trying to make, is the fact that there was no due process for these terrorists. That's his argument, anyways. He takes issue with the fact that these drug cartel members were not actually formally tried before they were, killed on a boat in the ocean somewhere. And so I think that's where he really takes issue, which, of course, a lot of people on the right tend to side with Vance. They're like, okay, well, why do these people need due process if they're poisoning our citizens, if they're a threat to our country? since when do foreign nationals get due process in this context? And so actually a source close to the vice president reached out, and they kind of had a response to this now infamous tweet from Senator Paul. And they basically said that they called him a hypocrite. They pointed to the fact that in 2015, he defended certain drone strikes that a former president, Barack Obama, had had done in Afghanistan, I believe it was. And it actually killed 3 American citizens. And so Rand Paul is on the record kind of defending some aspects that are comparable, some military actions that were taken in the past under a Democratic president that are comparable. And so there was definitely some choice words had for the senator. These conflicts are not uncommon between the two. And so when I reached back out to the senator for another comment, he kind of reiterated similar points that he made, that there's more nuance to this whole thing. One thing that I think is interesting that he pointed to is that he believes that the strike actually violated sort of these long-standing rules of engagement that the Coast Guard has, which is that you should not be using lethal force unless it is in self-defense or I believe it was just in self-defense. And he doesn't believe that applied. So again, it's getting kind of legalistic. I'm not a lawyer, and so I'm not one to take sides here, but it's certainly an interesting interaction, to say the least. And again, it's pointing to these divides that we've seen emerge within the party over these last couple of months when it comes to foreign policy.
It's giving the I don't really care Margaret vibes back all over again. Let's go ahead and turn our eyes to John Thune, because the Democrats nuked the Senate rules years ago. John Thune is now about to use these weapons right back at them. So take us through what's happening right now with Thune and everything that's going on with Trump nominees.
Yeah, so there are hundreds of nominees that are currently in the backlog that are still waiting to get confirmed. And the reason that the pace is not as quick as the Trump administration and his allies on the Hill would like it to be is because Democrats have taken this unprecedented approach, which is they have not allowed for a single confirmation to be done under unanimous consent or a voice vote, which is the first time it's ever happened. This is, again, unprecedented. And so what Republicans, including Leader Thune, decided to do was to take an existing precedent that Democrats themselves established just a couple years ago to actually work through this backlog. There's about 600 nominees, and so, I mean, it's really an uphill battle. But what this precedent will allow them to do, this rule change, means that they will be able to vote and confirm multiple nominees at a time, as opposed to just having to tediously confirm each one individually. And so the idea is that it's going to actually expedite a lot of these confirmations so that the administration can actually staff the bureaucracy and begin to more effectively implement the MAGA mandate that they were overwhelmingly elected to put through in November.
So 2 questions there. I mean, one, is this is actually happening? I mean, is he going to use the precedent? Is he going to press the nuclear button? And if so, does that signal that, you know, the Democrats' effort to blow up Senate norms in the past has already backfired, and now everyone's going to use this option moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that it's going to backfire. The pendulum always swings one way or the other, but the point is that right now they are using the tools that they have available to them to actually overcome this unprecedented obstruction that Democrats have been putting up. And so, again, just to point out just how unprecedented this is, never in another previous administration has there been any party that has refused to have votes based on unanimous consent or a voice vote. These aren't, controversial nominees. It's not another Pete Hegseth or another Tulsi Gabbard where you're going to see the votes come down to partisan lines. These are nominees that eventually get confirmed nearly unanimously. And so, again, this isn't even contentious in the partisan sense. It's purely just to inconvenience the administration, and it ends up actually hurting the American people in the long run.
Yeah, so you said there's about 600 of these positions that we're still waiting on. We're still waiting just to fill out the administration that took office back in January. I understand this takes a while, but it does seem like this is just DC at its finest, when you know that this is going to be something that eventually does go through, and this will happen. So what is the actual motive here for the Democrats, knowing that this is going to be done, but eventually they're going to have to address this?
It's just pettiness. It's pure love of the game. I mean, they're just digging their heels in every turn that they can. It's pretty characteristic of the party, at least when it comes to President Trump. A lot of his allies, they'll call it Trump derangement syndrome. I think that's a fair characterization in this case because, again, these aren't particularly controversial nominees. These are oftentimes they're passed nearly unanimously. And so it's just another example of Democrats trying to obstruct any attempt of the administration to actually benefit the American people just for the sake of obstructing whatever efforts the president has. It has nothing to do with the actual policy or the person themselves. It's purely ideological.
I mean, I kind of feel like there's a logic here that applies also to the cartels, being blown up. When you have an unprecedented situation, you're going to get an unprecedented response. And when they've already thrown out this as a weapon, it makes sense the Republicans pick it up and do it. But this is something that the clock is ticking on because I think a lot of people in the audience, they want to see this happen now. They think it's ridiculous that there's all these people who haven't been confirmed, and we have really important work to do, and this is getting in the way of the people's business. I would guess that there's going to be a lot of support for just taking care of business here. Is there any reticence, do you think, on the part of the Republicans at this point, or are they ready to move forward?
I think they're ready to move forward. I think a tweet that I saw actually this morning from a White House official was encouraging one of Trump's nominees, E.J. Antony, to actually get confirmed sooner than later because in recent weeks, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they have been in the news because they have had some faulty jobs reports numbers. They keep revising their figures, and people are kind of tired about these estimates that are inaccurate. And E.J. Antony at the head, he would really clean things up. And so this is a good example. It's one of many examples where actually confirming the nominee would lead to a more productive and effective bureaucracy, which the American people frankly deserve at this point.
Well, I know you must miss us because it's been so long since we've all been partying together in D.C.
So dearly.
I feel bad that Bedford's baby gave him the sickness. But that was a fun week we all had. It really was. It was very productive. We were all at NatCon and doing other things. And, I kind of feel like everyone who's there, when you're at a restaurant, randomly talking to congressmen who want to talk to you, going to the conference and doing interviews with people who don't necessarily want you to do interviews with them. It was good. It was good. I wish we were all together all the time.
I had a great time seeing you guys. It's always a little bit lonely with just me and Bedford in the office, so it's always good to see some of my coworkers who I consider friends. So it's always great seeing you guys.
You're the best. We'll take you anytime. Tan, rested, and ready. Rebecca Zelko, always ready, even if Bedford comes in sick. Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll actually be talking about E.J. Antony and all of the numbers that have come in. Can you actually trust the government? More after this. Well, I want to take a moment and thank you for watching and listening to the show. And it's because of you that we're able to keep producing content like this. Blaze TV exists because people like you refuse to settle for all the watered down coverage that's out there. You have to listen to all the endless spin. We don't want to mislead you with any information. This has never been about one voice or one company. It's a movement of people who refuse to sit on the sidelines. And you know what? We're actually willing to take a stand. That's why Blaze TV matters. When you're subscribing, you're standing shoulder to shoulder with a community that believes that America is worth fighting for. Blaze Media only exists because people like you step up and join us and help drive this mission forward. So when you subscribe, you're not just supporting a show, you're making your voice count and ensuring that the truth has a platform today and for the next generation. Go to blazetv.com/BNT and get $20 off. That means it's as low as $8 a month right now for an annual plan, and you can be a part of shaping the future. It's blazetv.com/BNT. The latest job numbers came in today, and they've been revised down big time. Over 900,000 fewer jobs were created between April of 2024 and March of 25, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But today's job numbers prove that Trump was right to clean house at BLS, but CNN doesn't care about the facts. They'd rather smear his new pick, E.J. Antony, over ancient posts.
We found he had posts that mocked Christine Blasey Ford, who accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. You can see right there, he called her Miss Piggy, commenting on her appearance. In early 2020, he shared a post that was basically advice for women: land a great guy, be in shape, grow your hair, be sweet, learn to cook, don't be annoying. This one from
Angry feminist.
Of course, that's what you're going to get from the legacy media, Matt. When we look at this, right, you can't trust government numbers. And Donald Trump's out here taking crap for getting rid of the former BLS commissioner, Erica and McEntire? Anyways, when you look at her, she's rightfully fired.
Yeah.
And you go through and you see these numbers and you're like, well, of course, something needs to happen here.
Yeah, I want to get to EJ Antony, who they're trying to attack and talk about how talented he is, which is why they're trying to attack him. But hilariously, he had an anon, he was posting online salacious stuff. These people are ridiculous. But let's first get clear on the problem here. The problem is when we say the statistics were off. First off, they're important. This is talking about how many jobs, right, we have in this country. These statistics are used by very important bodies. This relates to what the Federal Reserve should do. So this is really important stuff. This is like grasping reality. What is the reality on the ground? What is the job situation in America? It's so important. We pay money from taxes to have an office that does this, right? Now, they just came up. They're off by 50%. Now, if you're running a business or anything else, someone comes in with this very important calculation, like, oh, we have to revise that. We actually have to, it's like 50% less. We're just a little off there. That is absolutely ridiculous. And that's why, JD Vance has said before, he said recently, it's difficult to overstate how useless BLS data has become. A change was necessary to restore confidence. So Trump and the administration did what you would do in that situation and say, you know what? You guys keep getting this wrong. No one trusts these numbers. You're fired.
And we look at just the numbers in general, and it's like, okay, you're that far off, right? I don't even know just where to begin, right? If normal people were this bad at their job, they wouldn't have the job, right? And yet we go through and we see, we just talked with Rebecca Zelko, and she's saying that there are 600 nominees for Trump that are still waiting to get in. Well, those are just the seats that are open right now in Washington, D.C. These are the seats that people already currently had. Yeah. And, EJ is one of these guys now that we're going to wait to get in. But it's like, if normies were this bad at their job, we wouldn't even be questioning why they're losing it.
Yes, and exactly right, Jill. And here's the problem. They're actually not bad at their job. Their job has actually been politicized, and this is happening on purpose. So if you look at election season, look at August 2024, when you're moving into that election moving in through the summer into the fall of 2024, really a year ago, you can see the New York Times, 818,000 fewer jobs than reported earlier. These people, in other words, the way in which they get these things wrong appears to be an attempt to help one side of the coin and one party, and everyone knows it.
Well, the media, though, they are mad at Donald Trump's new pick, EJ Antony. And you heard it there in the clip from CNN. But in that clip where the man is talking, he also posted on X along with that image that Trump's nominee runs, he runs an anonymous Twitter account filled with the sexually degrading attacks on Kamala Harris, these anti-gay slurs, and these far right-wing conspiracy theories, right? Like, he's probably just a normal guy, right? If this is what they're saying on CNN about him, he's probably just a very average right-wing conservative guy.
Yeah, in terms of political beliefs, this guy's just, MAGA Maha and had an X account that is considered offensive, just like everyone in the audience does if they're on X. That's completely hilarious. Everything they go to is, jokes, memes that everyone was making, very mainstream stuff. And, he has political opinions. Great. Well, this is America, last I checked. But he also is a very accomplished guy. He is an econ PhD. We have Art Laffer in the New York Times writing about him, none other than conservative godfather, on the economic right, saying this guy's the right man for BLS because he is a serious economist and because he called in advance the downward jobs revisions in February. So what you're seeing now in the revision of the statistics, EJ, right, Trump's nominee, to actually take over and give us true facts about the job market, he called exactly what was going to happen. He knew that they were going to have to revise these numbers. He saw that. He said it publicly. And, that's why the left is so afraid of him, because they've controlled this office for so long. They've been able to fudge the numbers to pretend, there's not a recession when there is a recession, to help their guys out.
Well, and on that note, one of the friend of the show's, Ed Dowd, I always find this interesting when he talks about this, because he went through and he was basically like, listen, we should have had a recession, but what the Biden administration did is they went in and messed with the numbers, as you're saying, but it's all due to immigration. It's not actually the numbers that were coming in. They just had a huge influx of people bringing a ton of, the money was still coming because the bodies were there. They still had to go through and buy things. And of course, we're probably just doling out the money for them to do so. But I think that's such an important part of this puzzle to understand, is that look at that huge immigration swing that came in. And now, as Donald Trump and this administration are going to go through and they're going to start unwinding this and sending people home, keep that in mind, because things, they might be going down at some point, because the numbers themselves were being lied to every step of the way.
Yeah, and look, Trump realized this. If we look at his truth tweet, his fake job numbers bit. I mean, to his credit, he was informed that the commissioner who was faking the job numbers before the election. I mean, he's very aware of this. And of course, the administration is very concerned about what the Fed is doing and this denial that we're, coming out of a recession. I mean, so we're on to reality. And what I say with this, as a lot of other issues you see today, is that there are a whole lot of numbers where we need to look really closely at what we've been doing. Bureau of Justice Statistics is another one, right? A lot of these police stations throughout the country have been misreporting crime, right? What the left has done is distort reality, even when it comes to the actual numbers on the ground, to make things look as if, the reality looks different and suits their purposes. That has to end. Like, we can't have a true discussion about what to do in America until we know what the situation on the ground is. And if you can't trust your government to tell you how many jobs have been added or lost, then, you can't have a discussion about the economy. So it sounds like this isn't just some nerdy point about numbers. This is a really important point where throughout the entirety of the federal government, we need to get right on what is actually going on. And that means being very careful about calculating what the numbers look like. Because if we don't know reality, we can't even have an argument about it or respond to it. And these people have tried to distort that for a long time. And that's a shame. And it's changing now. And
Donald Trump got elected in part because people couldn't afford groceries. And we were being lied to, and we were being told that the inflation number was, 5-6%. And people were like, wait, but I can't afford like ground beef at the grocery store. Something isn't adding up here. So I hope that we take this step today as the first thing of looking at it and saying, okay, let's actually try and figure out, and this is going to be, pie in the sky potentially because it's government numbers still, but at least taking one step closer to actually trying to figure out what's going on and potentially telling the American people the truth.
Yes, and remember, there's one obstacle that stands in the way now, right? They got rid of the woman who is in charge of this mess. They got it back on but is it back on the right track yet? No, because they need Anthony to be nominated, and he's already nominated to get in there, right? Same issue we'll be talking about throughout this show and others. We have to get the Senate to actually bring in 600 plus people who need to be put in place because Trump won the election, and Democrats in the Senate are holding that up. This is a guy with a great resume, perfect economist to go in there and do the job. He predicted everything that happened, and he's still going to have to wait until the Senate confirms him.
You can have a perfect resume. It doesn't matter there in Washington, D.C. They don't care if you have a perfect resume or not. They're still going to wait to make you get your place, your seat at the table.
By the way, a perfect resume to me should include an anonymous Twitter account that says spicy things, but that's just me.
That's the way it goes. When we come back, somebody that's actually going to go try and get one of those seats in Washington, D.C. We'll be talking with our friend Ryan Rhodes, who's running for Iowa's 4th District when we come back. We've all heard politicians promise to shake things up in Washington, but Ryan Rhodes says it's time to make America Iowa. He's running for Congress in the 4th District there in Iowa, and he joins us now to talk about immigration and spending and why he thinks that Iowa values can save the country. So when we look at this, one, I'm from Iowa, Ryan's from Iowa. We've known each other for a long time. We go way back. So when you look at Congress, we all know it's broken, right? We have known that for decades in this country. So what can we actually go do in fixing Congress right now? What's missing in Congress right now?
Well, I think in large part, what's a big part of what's missing is we have all these congressmen from solid Republican districts going out there and acting like they're in the biggest swing district in the country. And so we need people out there, going out there, representing our plus 20s, which is what this district is, like actual conservatives, actual Republicans, with the values that our voters have voted into office with President Trump, and getting the backup on this that we need out there.
I mean, that's a great point, because so many times we've had Andy from the House Freedom Caucus come on here and talk about this. And what we see throughout the country is that the more you get R plus, right, the less Republican people actually are. You'll have basically Democrats winning because you just put an R behind your name, and they win, and then they go to Congress and they're terrible. And it's sort of ironic, they're coming from these hard red areas. But in your case, let's step back a little bit and talk personally. I mean, I know you a little bit, hanging out with Jill, and we had a great time at the inauguration, and I kind of like you. So, and you know what these people are like. So why are you running? I mean, what made you decide to really do this? Because that's a task to take on, and you've been successful and done a lot of different things. What's driving you?
Well, really, like I said, representing those people. We have our country under attack. Just north of the district in Minneapolis, we have Omar Fatah that is literally going to potentially be the mayor, the Somali mayor of Minneapolis, who said he's Somali first. We have Fatah, and then we have Mandami in New York. So, yeah, all the different names. We're bringing in the third world to America, and they're not coming here to be Americans. They have openly said they are literally Somali first, Uganda first. They're trying to push their own culture, and they're trying to bring Islamo-communism to our cities across the country.
So take people through a little bit of your background and why we say this, why we know you, how this all happened, how you got to this place in your career.
Well, what got in, I went to college for turfgrass management and somehow ended up in the grassroots of the political realm. And I founded the Iowa Tea Party, and that was really one of the things that just made me continue the fight and looking for better candidates. And then I was behind the scenes a lot, consulting people and trying to make sure that when we got good candidates in there, we had some that stayed, because that is a foundational problem, is you get a good person in there as well and you get bad management, and then they just get worse. So it got to this point. I helped Ben Carson. Carson did stuff with Donald Trump, and so now it's time to go. I just feel called to step back in with this seat opens, that we need a conservative fighter in this district.
I mean, right now, headlines are raging, speaking of Mamdani and these other people, when it comes to immigration and crime. And I see more people speaking out loud about this issue than maybe we ever have in the past. Can you talk a little bit about that and what Congress should be doing?
Well, Congress is going to have to start cracking down on stuff. In large part, we're importing a lot of crime. We're importing crime all over the country. When you see, look at the heavily Somalian area in Minneapolis, you look at other places in New York and all these other areas. On top of that, we have our own crime problem, because we have simply just done jailbreak legislation. We have allowed these people to go with just slaps on the wrist where they're continuing to do violent crime. And then what we've done is, for a lot of these cities, they've wanted to downgrade what a violent crime is. So they're like, see, we have less violent crime. And so we have to actually start pushing on these cities. And you can use the kind of funding carrot and stick that the Democrats have done to us in the past.
Is this a real turning point for the country, right? When we look at immigration and crime and we see, the likes of AOC, she's not down there crying at the border anymore, right? We used to see that. Now we see that Ukrainian woman who was killed. It feels like people have had enough at this point. And it's not going to just be something that goes through the media that is going to say, oh, we have to feel bad for X, Y, and Z, all these immigrants that have been coming into the country, or just crime in general.
Well, when you have like 40% of New York City that is literally foreign born, I think what we're looking at, and when you see a bad crime rate in that city, is we're importing a lot of this. So no, I don't think it's going to go away. Some people may go, I want to move away, but if they move away, then that stuff is going to creep out into other places. So it's going to have to be dealt with. We're doing a lot at the border. She can't cry at the border as much because there's not many people coming through. But we go back when that stuff goes to your cities and we're not able to get it back, and these liberal mayors are fighting against getting these people out of there with ICE, then yeah, it's not going away.
And, you've been strong on protecting women's sports and many of the cultural issues. There are still people, unfortunately, in the party and on certain networks who don't seem to want to talk about those issues. What do you say to them, and why are these issues important to you?
Well, these issues are part of the heart and soul of our country. One, you can't have a country if you start teaching our kids that agenda, right? A man and a woman are what create babies and get out and we grow our future. You also have men and women's sports. You have what you're doing to children fundamentally is basically stealing their future life from them. And if we don't defend this now, if this isn't an absolute red line, Donald Trump's doing a lot of good stuff on this, but if we don't have this red line, not just for now, but forever, period, it's never coming back, then no, we're not going. It's going to creep right back in as soon as they get a little foothold.
Steve Deace, mutual friend, obviously big on the cultural issues as well, this being one of them. Some of the Republicans are like, you know what, we focus too much on the cultural stuff. We should just let some of that go. We should just go out there and make sure that we have, low taxes and low crime. What do you say to those people that are just a little bit still wishy-washy on the cultural issues?
The culture. What I say is that if we're not going to fight that, there's nothing left to fight. There is a cause of crime into this, because when you get parentlessness and you get all of these other things, if you don't fight for those cultural issues, it trickles on down. That's when it gets into kids' schools. That's when it starts fundamentally changing this culture, and then arguing over whether or not you have a 50% tax rate or an 80%. Or we become that socialist Europe. It's not going to matter. We have got to stop this now, and we have got to never take our foot off the gas, because they will come back, and it's not an issue we can let them get any foot under the tent.
So once again, it's like Dace here, Jill. I'm surrounded by Iowans all the time.
Right.
What is it about Iowa? Make America Iowa. What does that mean? Iowa values.
Well, I think in particular, in this district in particular, you have good, hardworking people. You have farmers out there. You have it's a very evangelical district, so you have people out there who have those values. And right now, a lot of places in the district pretty good. We got to work on helping our farmers, but we are pretty good on the moral code. But if we don't start advancing that, California, Chicago, Minneapolis, they don't ever stop there. They always try to come to where we are at home. And we've had a couple flare-ups where we've had to fight there. But if we don't start fighting, and if we don't say it's time to not just be a stronghold, it's time to make that stronghold and send it out, because our values are better. And I think that's what people have been afraid to say, is our values are better than theirs.
How do you push that out nationwide then, right? We see Kim Reynolds. She was the governor of Iowa for so long that she's not going to be running for re-election. There's a lot of shakeup going on right now in Iowa. Usually there's nothing that's happening. We know who he's going to be running, but there's a lot of seats open. So how do you make sure that the Iowa conservative values still stay not only just in Iowa, but grow and expand across the country?
Well, one, I think you can. We're going to have to legislate some of this stuff. Okay, apparently we have to tell people men can't be in women's sports. Apparently we have to tell people, no, you cannot transgender our kids. And at the end of the day, we should be out there saying, once again, this is actually a mental illness. This is not something we can do. We've looked at shooters going after Catholic churches, and it's becoming a new cycle that shooter was trans, this shooter was trans. What we're doing is feeding into a mental illness and stopping that in its tracks on a federal level, so it doesn't, no matter where it is important.
I love this. I love the reversal because I've been preaching this for many years, which is that red states, instead of being, these insecure places where, I hope the big dogs on the coast will take notice, or we don't want to anger them, right, with our extremist policies that they think are extreme and don't like. The reverse has to play where you have red states rising who are saying exactly what you're saying here. We're going to make America Iowa, like we're exporting what we have to the rest of the country. But the problem there many times is that the actual representation for people who are very conservative in these places doesn't really happen. People go to Congress, and whatever they tell them, back home, we don't even need to say what happens. We know what happens. They go to D.C., and then they sort of lose their way. So, how do you kind of see your relationship to Washington and Congress?
Well, I think having actually been there in the fight at a time gives me, I know what I'm getting into. I know they're going to take you back there, and I know they're going to try to twist your arms. But if we don't do this, we're not going to, the fight's going to be over. It's going to keep getting worse. And we've seen wins. Ron DeSantis in Florida help move that state. What Donald Trump's policies have made places bright red, all right? Even in Washington, D.C., he cracks down. Mayor Bowser had to come around because when they see it, people go, oh, well, we can do this. So we have to literally push this out, and we have to make them see it because our policies are just better.
Last question. What would be the very first thing that you would do day one as a congressman in Washington, D.C.?
Well, the list is long, but I think off the bat, we need to make the DOGE cuts permanent and then take the next step to expanding them. We need to stop these transgender surgeries on minors and protect our kids.
Spoken like somebody who went out there and established a Tea Party back there in Iowa. Thanks so much, Ryan Rhodes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Where can people get more?
RhodesForIowa.com.
Say that again.
RhodesForIowa.com. FOR.
There we go. Thanks so much. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be wrapping up the show with replies from you right after this. Well, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Donald Trump posed a question on Truth Social. He asked, why are Democrats rooting against America? Seems like a pretty evergreen question. So I wrote on X and asked you, hey guys, what's the answer? Why are Democrats rooting against America? Let's go ahead and get to Dalton, who starts us off. He says, because Marx and Woodrow Wilson have taught the Democrats. Very fair answer. Very fair to start today's replies when we look at the old Marxists and our favorite here at Blaze Media, Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, well, put aside the Marxists for a minute. Just think about Woodrow Wilson himself. First PhD Princeton president, as well as United States president. First PhD to become president. He just, as Glenn Beck has pointed out for years, he specifically rejected the principles of the early American Republic. He said the Constitution is passé, it's outdated. The way they thought about nature, the way they thought about history is outdated, and actually history is progressing and unfolding, and we need to uncover the spirit of the age, and yada, yada, yada. So there definitely is a lot of truth to what he's saying, because at the heart of that is the idea that somehow in the beginning this thing was corrupt and evil, and we just have to transcend, right, America. But it gets worse than that, because they're always progressing, right? So you always have to transcend the old thing, which was bad, and progress to something better and better and better. And then you need to listen to your fearless leaders who are going to interpret the spirit of the age for you, which is what Wilson said about himself. And they would, progress you further. So yeah, that's an enormous problem, and it's part of this issue where you can never be pure enough, right? There's always some evil there that needs to be scrubbed out. It's a very weird thing.
Woodrow Wilson, Barack Obama. Are we going to be talking about Barack Obama the way that we have Woodrow Wilson when we get further and further away from his presidency?
Yeah, a friend and former mentor, college professor of mine, Charles Kessler, has written a book on Obama that's actually very good on this topic. I think Obama was a transformational, or at least a transitional figure to really implement a new version of a lot of these progressive policies in a way. And remember, he himself, though, did not like to present as anti-principles of the founding. He adopted that stuff like FDR did. So, we're still dealing with all his people in the FBI and everywhere else, and it's going to take a while to clean house.
It's part of the deal there in Washington, D.C. Let's go ahead and get to Darren, who wrote that we were made in the image of God. The Democrat Party is a demonic construct that not only wants to be their own God, they want to remake us in their image and will go to any lengths to accomplish it. This feels like one of the Steve Day shows that we just watch over and over and over again. It's the construct. This is what they do. But he's not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the entire Democratic Party, but I would say that there's this idea that's prevalent out there, and you're not wrong about it, that there is no God, right? And that we need to remake ourselves as gods in control over nature and ourselves and everything else. So there are no real rules. And that's where you get, I mean, the transgender issue is very much like this. Like, I will physically remake my body, and people will mutilate themselves in order to exercise power over nature and say that they can do something that's really impossible to do. And that sort of mental illness is what's actively promoted by one side. So, okay, yeah.
Terry rounds out our replies, and he says that because they hate America and what it stands for. Simple, effective, to the point. A great way to end the replies today, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I think there are a lot of people who've been taught to hate their own country from the time that they were young, and they've been given reasons to hate their own country from the time that they were young. And for new people coming in, we teach them they should hate the country too, because it opposes them. And this is not an idea that can last, because ultimately, if you preach that over time, you will destroy your country. And that's the existential fight that we still are in now. All the stuff that's happening in D.C. is great. It's essential in order to win. But ultimately, if you teach generations of kids, which we have, that their country is evil, and it's not even nuanced, right? I mean, real history is complicated, right? There's always ups and downs in a nation. But if you say that people are, this country is inherently evil in some way, and you teach that systematically to generations of kids, it's going to take a long time to get out of that, to save your country, if you even can. And we haven't even begun to reform the civics in K through 12 and never mind college and graduate school system in this country. So unless you do that, there's no win. All this other stuff won't matter if you teach that your country is evil. And on top of that, we're teaching that certain people are evil because of the color of their skin. They have blood guilt, basically. And that's another problem, right? That's going to cause more tension. So we have a long way to go to get out of this.
We do. And I'm glad that we had Ryan Rhodes on today. And then we're talking about this because we need people who actually have good lives, who have good intentions, who want to go to D.C. and do the right thing. And he's one of those guys. And we just look at it and, make America Iowa again. Listen, as an Iowa Hawkeye myself, I am all for exporting what we do. But it's just good, honest, decent people in Iowa. And wouldn't that be great if we could just say the country were good, honest, decent people all over the place?
Yeah, well, what's great about Ryan Rhodes and why I have him on the show in part is he's not a politician, right? So he's someone who's going into it, who's been involved in politics in a great way for a long time and is actively saying, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to not only make Iowa great again, I'm going to make the country great again, and I'm going to stand for what my constituents actually believe. Well, that's important. People should be represented with Republican leaders who actually understand them and actually stand for their values. And often in red states, I'm telling you, the heart of the country, people will come in and they just know what to say. They have the R by their name and they get elected. And we can't have that anymore.
And we're winning right now. So when we're winning, we have to make sure that we go through and continue to do things the right way. And it's not just enough to have a couple people here and there. What we're looking at right now with these nominees that are waiting to get in, if we're waiting on 600 people, then we need to start raising a ruckus and we need to start making sure that things continue on, because even once you're in there, it's not guaranteed that everybody around you is still the people that you need. This is step one, is getting people in the building, get the nominees in there, because once they get in there, there's an entire laundry list of things that they need to get done, because it's not exactly like Washington, D.C. is working correctly right now. No,
exactly, Jill. We have a long way to go to even get everyone in place to start the battle, which is crazy when you think about everyone normal is thinking, well, this guy got in January, right? That's when we elected President Trump, and he brought his administration in there. But I said it once, I say it 1,000 times. You have to understand that what this is like is you and a few people have been given the task to take charge of a pirate ship. All right. And you go in there.
Take me with you here.
You got your
Where are we going?
Your first mate. You got your second mate, right? You know, you've seen those movies, the old school sailing ships. You got your little crew, right? And you're all the officers now. And you go into the captain's quarters and you close the door. And what you realize is, yeah, you're technically in charge of this ship, but everyone on the ship hates you and it stands against you. And you've been given over, right, the control of this large department, this large agency, but you got a few people sitting in your office who are on your side, and everyone else there is insanely hard to fire. Probably you can't fire most of them, and they hate you. And they're thinking, I'm going to be here after you go. You're only going to be here for a few years, and I'm going to run circles around you. And then some of them come up to you and say, you know what, Jill, I think you are going to be a great pilot of this vessel. I really respect what you stand for, and I'm going to help you, navigate. I would navigate for you around the ship and explain how these things work and, who your enemies are and everything else. And that person is going to completely lie, right, to the agency head, the political person that Trump brings in to the agency. And that's what it's like. And so how do you steer this thing when everyone is opposed to you? Well, you do know people who know their way around the ship, who do know where all the bodies are buried and the bad guys are. You do need, voices on the ground. This is an insanely hard task. So the upshot of it is you need all hands on deck that you have that are political appointees that need to be confirmed by the Senate. And the Democrats know this. And they don't care about truth or anything else. All they're going to do is just stymie this, where they're going to stop everyone they can as long as possible from getting in there. And then again, ladies and gentlemen, once they get in there, I don't know how many of these people I've talked to at this point, once they get in there, they're now engaged in the battle to take over the pirate ship, to take over the agency. And that's something that we're going to help them do by shining a light on, what's going on within these departments and agencies. But yeah, we haven't even begun. The Senate has to confirm. It's hard to get people excited about this, but you got 600 people who need to go in there and lead.
One, brilliant. I am going to be thinking about pirate ships all day now, and I'm thinking, how can we make graphics? Put, Matt on a pirate ship, maybe a peg leg or something. But all we do around here is, when we're not on camera, we say stupid movie quotes all the time. So all I'm thinking right now is, I'm the captain now.
Oh, yeah.
But if that's the case, right? If we're the captain now, you better be following in line with what we're doing. And I look at, an RFK Jr.,
yes.
And he's out there leading someone and something. And okay, if you want to go and you want to create a movement, you need somebody like RFK Jr. who is absolutely taking things over, who is saying things that needed to be said for decades. And he's not scared to do it. And he's not scared to call out Elizabeth Warren and how much money she's taking from Big Pharma, right? So there's a groundswell that's happening right now in DC. This is why it's so important to fill out the rest of the pirate ships have to come along. We have to have a whole fleet, a whole army of pirate ships, because then at that point, you might actually have a fighting chance against the deep state.
Yeah, then you turn it into a fleet. You give everyone a uniform, right? And then you're master and commander style. That's what we need. But the RFK is a great example, Jill, because it's important that people, when you go in there, you have to anger them. You have to say all the things you actually believe, and you're hoping that a bunch of them just leave. That's a bonus points if they just leave because they know it's too embarrassing to stay here.
That's what they're doing at the CDC right now.
Yes.
Because they're how dare you get rid of us?
Because you can't just fire them all. That's what people don't understand. You cannot fire them all. That's not legal, right? You can't go in and fire them. They're hard to get rid of. So you got to fire who you can, and then you want to smoke them out and make it so, I can't stay here because now I won't get a job even with the left because he's so bad. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
You have to make it so uncomfortable for the leftist deep staters that they just walk away on their own. Isn't that the dream? Matt, this has been a fun one.
Yeah,
Pirate ships.
Fun.
Who knew?
Love sailing. Sailboat nationalism is real. We're going to make it real. We're going to make it great again. It's going to be a great, great year.
That's it for us tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow.